All right, what's going on, everyone? Let's go. Welcome to the chat. We're gonna start shortly here. We're gonna wait like at least 30 seconds to try to get everyone in the show here. I do want to let you guys know if you do have any questions, feel free to leave it in the chat. What I will do is we will ask the questions at the end there, okay? So leave your questions in the chat throughout the show. I know you guys will have some. My guest, Ben Drum's amazing. So you want to make sure you take advantage of that right there, okay? Hey, what's going on? What's up, Luis? Hey. Hey, thanks for showing up, man. Appreciate it. Awesome. Cool. All right. Yeah, if you have any questions, and the good thing is all this information, you could actually bring it into any business or any company or industry. So you don't have to just do, I know like I'm in tech sales, but you do not have to just fully have it focused in tech sales. It will work with almost any industry you're trying to go into. All right. Okay, awesome. All right, we're gonna wait about 15 more seconds here. All right, what's going on? Okay. Yeah, just leave the questions in chat. All right. Yes. Okay. All right, guys, we are about to start right now. Okay, so I want everyone to give a round of applause to the man, Ben Drum. What's going on? Hey.
Good afternoon, Richard. Hyped to be here.
Hey, thank you for being here. We're hyped for you to be here. Like, this guy, by the way, he's the guy that helped me out throughout the whole process of even being in my position right now. So this is the man right here, guys. Thank you.
Now, gotta say, you made my job easy for me, Richard.
How was your weekend? Did you do anything exciting?
Yeah, it was great. Saw some live music, hung out with some friends, got some sun. It's a beautiful weekend here in Los Angeles. So, excited to have that and busy on the week now.
By the way, I just want to say your camera quality is amazing. I gotta step up my camera quality right here. And I love video too, so awesome. All right, well, just to let you guys know, a friendly reminder, if you have any questions, just leave on the chat. We'll actually answer the questions at the end. But Ben Drum, he's amazing. He's a global recruiter. Just, tell us a little bit about yourself, by the way.
Yeah. So I am a recruiter at the software company FastSpring. Over the last 2+ years, have been hiring for roles, everything on go-to-market and sales and marketing to backroom finance to technical engineering roles. In that time, I've interviewed hundreds of candidates. I've read thousands and thousands of resumes, and so excited to share some of what I've learned with your community here, Richard.
Awesome. Thank you so much by that. Well, let's get started. Since you're talking about you interview hundreds of people, what is the process when someone, from a department wants to hire a new person to their team anyways?
Yeah, and it really starts with, why is there an opening here? And there's kind of two separate situations. Either companies looking to grow and bring in a new person, or looking to fill a spot, a backfill, or someone who's transitioned out of the company. And that really tells a story about what your role is going to be when you join the company. Are they growing really quickly? Are they starting a new project that they need more people on? Or is it a role that someone hadn't been successful in and they need someone with a fresh perspective or new skill set to come in? So basically, with an executive and a manager will look at the budget for the year and say, how much money do we have and what is the skill set that we want to bring in? And that's when it kind of comes to my desk with those decisions.
So let's say once you get the job requisition, right? Because I'll be honest, when I was looking for a job, I always want to look at the thought process or the whole process of how recruiter starts looking for applicants. So how do you start, like yourself? How do you start looking for an applicant?
Yeah, there's really two main avenues for how we get applicants into our process. One is going to be our job postings. We throw that job description up on our career site and the website, on LinkedIn, and some other job sites like Indeed, for example.
Hmm.
And that's where usually people find us, right? They're just looking around, looking for a new role. They can click apply and bring that in here. Uh, the second avenue is when I'm going out and proactively reaching out to folks. A lot of recruiters have the back end of LinkedIn. It's called LinkedIn Recruiter and allows me to use a bunch of search filters and really identify who is it that I want in this role and see if they're open to having a conversation and introducing them. So that might be people that are open to a new role. It might be people who are happy in their current role and aren't looking to change. And sometimes it's up my prerogative to try and prime away from their current company and join FastSpring in this case.
Right. So let's say, so out of both avenues, you're talking about Indeed or LinkedIn, what would you say, like the most information comes out of, or the most applicants, LinkedIn or Indeed?
Yeah, we get a lot more from LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is the number one hub for job searchers and job hirers, across the world. Really, it's a mix, right? LinkedIn and coming from a career site. Uh, we get some Indeed too, but there's a ton of volume coming from all that. LinkedIn, if you're looking for a role, is the most powerful tool to use. Uh, It'll give you the best results. There's a lot of different tricks that you can do to get your resume noticed. And so really my biggest piece of advice is if you're not using LinkedIn, start, right? That's the number one thing to get set up there.
I definitely agree. The benefit, by the way, with LinkedIn is just being able to at least show your face to the company, right? Because I always tell people, at the end of the day, companies are looking at your profile and those things in their head besides what's written. Can I work with this person, or can this person work with and be a good fit for a company? So highly agree with that. And speaking of the job postings, I've seen where, okay, so I'm confused myself. Right? So let's say there is that job requirements on the posting. Let's say I don't meet at least one or two requirements. Should I still apply, or I shouldn't? Because I'm not sure myself. So.
I love this question, Richard, because 100% the answer is yes, apply. When you're looking at a job posting and a job description, that's the ideal world, the perfect candidate that a company wants to hire. All those
Mhm.
elements, whether it's years of experience, whether you're looking at tools or skill sets, whether you're looking at a degree, really all of that is, in a perfect world, that's the person we want. And that never happens, right? We're
Right.
always constantly finding people who might be really strong in one area and have room for development or growth in another area. And we're happy with that. We want someone who has a great foundation, who's passionate about the role, and then when they get in the seat, are ready to develop those skills, are ready to be trained, are excited for that. Um, so please don't be scared away from a job description that says 3+ years or 5+ years of experience.
Mhm.
Sometimes you're not going to be the best fit for the role, but there are some cases that when given a chance, you actually might have
Right.
an opportunity.
Right. Right. Exactly. Okay. So thanks for clarifying that, because I seen when I was on the job hunt, I was looking at, I couldn't find, I would meet almost every requirement. And then all of a sudden there's that one requirement. I'm like, I don't think I could, I don't even know if I can beat that part. All right. Well, when it comes to that, so I know you talked about applying in Indeed and LinkedIn, and you did say LinkedIn is the dominant platform that anyone should apply for. So I heard this myth that where if you apply in LinkedIn's job board, sometimes you might not have, a higher chance of actually getting your name in the database, because even with the easy apply, Is that true, or should we, as an applicant, should we apply in the company's career page? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a myth. Really, that, and at least I'll speak for what happens at FastSpring and for what I've seen across. Obviously, all systems are different, but
Hmm.
we, on the recruiter side, we have what's called an applicant tracking system, and that is the home
Mm.
for all of our talent. No matter if you're applying from LinkedIn, from Indeed, or from our career website, it's coming into the same pool of resumes, exact same spot. We don't give an opinion to one over the other. So if you're just looking at sending in your resumes, doesn't matter the location.
Okay. All right. Well, by the way, we're going to get to the applicant tracking system in a bit. I just have a little more questions on the job posting, by the way. So, okay, that makes sense. So, speaking of that, so I've seen also job boards that go way back. So it could be, in a month, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. So how far back should someone apply for an open position that was posted on LinkedIn's job board?
Yeah, and I assume you're talking about this says this job has been open for 3 months or 5 months,
Right.
or whatever it is.
Hmm.
Yeah, always apply. You never really know in what happens in a hiring process, and I'll tell you, things go crazy all the time. We might be through with 3 finalist applicants and then decide that none of them are a fit, or they all get other jobs and leave us hanging as well. So things happen all the time. Not guaranteeing that a newer job posting will have you more success than the older one. Throw
Hmm.
your resume out there. You never know. Is really just the answer there.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, so I've also seen when that position was already posted and then it says reposted. What does that mean when a position that's reposted?
Yeah, and just like applicants want their resume to be at the top of the stack, us hirers want our job posting to be the top of the stack as well. So a
Oh.
lot of programs in LinkedIn will allow us to refresh a job posting, which basically means we're going to bump to this top of those key results. So it looks like it's nice, fresh, and new. We can get a huge surge of applicants. We usually see the most resumes coming in over the first couple of days that a job is posted. And so that refresh is another way to say, all right, we want a new little surge. We want more eyeballs on that job posting.
Hmm.
So same job posting, same resumes that came in before are going to still be there for us. We're not reposting or restarting the whole search.
Mm.
It's a way for us to get that extra activity.
Okay. So should so I know that you want to get the job posting on on the higher part here. So so let's say if it's been 30 days, right,
Mhm.
or 2 months, whatnot, then it was reposted again, and I already applied for that position. Should I apply again or should I not?
No need to, right? We have your
Oh, okay.
resume. We're likely, to be honest, sometimes get a ton of resumes and it takes a while to get through all those. If you haven't heard back, applying again isn't going to give you any help. There's other things like reaching out to a recruiter that we can kind of chat about will be a good way to make sure that you're getting eyeballs on that resume. But
Hmm.
if you see it's been reposted or refreshed, you can trust that we have your resume.
Okay, so so let's say someone that hasn't applied on the original posting, does their resume just go to the original database then?
Yep, it's all going into one pool. We have it there. And so we'll be looking through it as time permits, um, but all in that same spot.
Okay, all right. So since you talked about applicant tracking system, what is that, by the way? What's the applicant tracking system?
Yeah, so I'm really glad you asked because there's a lot of articles written and videos and tips all out there that are kind of misled on what an ATS or an applicant tracking system is. And
Hmm.
really, in the simplest sense, it's just a database that allows recruiters and hiring managers to look at resumes and facilitate candidates through the process. Um, a lot of news comes out about you need to include keywords or format your resume specifically to pass through some like auto rejection of the ATS system. And for the most part, like I'm saying, this is all kind of my limited scope and I'm not claiming to know everything. But for most of the major applicant tracking systems and companies that I've seen and been exposed to, there's no automatic parsing, automatic scanning of resumes that will automatically reject you from that. Really, what the applicant tracking system is doing is just facilitating the process, making it easier for us to get feedback, and then also reach out to candidates and track you through an interview process.
Right.
But if you're really worried about putting in keywords from the job description to get through that automatic scanning of a resume, that's really not happening for the most part at most companies that you apply to.
Okay, that's interesting. So, so if there's not certain keywords that you're saying that you don't need the certain keywords on a job posting, what's the best way to get noticed then when it comes down to that?
Sure, and I'll follow that up that using keywords from a job description in your resume can actually be really successful in a recruiter looking at your resume and saying, they're doing exactly what we want to see in their role. So really, when we're thinking about getting noticed, your resume is getting noticed. Like I mentioned, there's huge volume of resumes coming in for some roles, right? I've seen stacks of 800 resumes plus that it's all very difficult to stand out in that crowd. So what is the number one suggestion for getting your resume noticed? Find a recruiter on LinkedIn that works at the company and reach out with a message. That is something that 10 times out of 10 times when I see someone reach out, it ensures that their resume is getting a close look, a second look, or even if it's in a stack of hundreds and hundreds, a priority look for me. That's absolutely something that you should do every single time you apply for a role. It shows that you're proactive. It shows that you're really interested in the role. And it shows that you have some of those skills that in sales and marketing are really, really key to be able to do outreach, form a written message, create rapport with a stakeholder. So you can go click into the company's LinkedIn page, click on the people tab, search recruiter, and instead of saying, look at my resume, you can just kind of tell them, hi, my name's Richard. I applied for this role. I'd really love to, jump on a call and talk more about it.
Okay,
and
I see.
Most good recruiters will say, perfect. Like, we'll let you know if we think you're a fit. They might say, actually, I'm not the one that's leading this search, but this person will be. And the truth is sometimes you will not get a response. Follow up, bug us, right? Like, it's if you're taking the time to apply to our role, to share a message with us, to show that you're interested in the role, a recruiter should take the time to touch you back, make sure that message was received, and take a look at your resume.
So speaking of follow up, how often should a applicant follow up?
In this case, give it a few days, right? We're busy. You're not really asking for a big lift here, right? There's not a lot behind the scenes that needs to go on for me to look at your resume. And I think one of the things that the best recruiters do, and I try and do, is give an update even if there's no update. I can say, hey, Richard, thanks. We're sharing your resume. I don't really have a decision for you right now, but stay tuned.
I see. Okay,
follow up, bug us. Yeah, get a response in a few days, maybe a week, and really track that down.
Okay. So I know you said that the optimizing part is mainly for a human eye, right? Like the actual person, a recruiter. So how does a person properly format their resume if they're trying to get in and beat the ATS or the applicant tracking system?
Yeah. And here's where we get into such a hard question, because you have about 10 seconds of my attention on your resume to get me hooked in. That's the unfortunate truth. I wish I could spend 30 minutes on each resume really looking through it, but you have about 10 seconds to grab the attention of the recruiter. So make it easy to find the information that I'm looking for. That means no more than 3 or 4 bullets that in your job, when you're explaining your roles, that show the impact of your work using action words, active verbs that are showing the impact of the work you're doing. So let me kind of take a step back and say that and we can talk a little bit about the start, right? If you want to do a professional summary,
Mm-hmm.
but when you're thinking about talking about the jobs you've had and the responsibilities, you want to. I don't want to see a explanation of what you're doing on the day to day. I want to see an explanation of the impact or the achievements of your work. And the best way to format that is kind of thinking in a structure saying, I accomplished X as measured by Y by doing Z. So just like thinking of a brainstorm off the top of my head here for an SDR role, I don't want to see you saying, I researched prospects and cold called them. I want to see you saying, I achieved 150% of my quota through outbound prospecting and multi-channel cold outreach, right? Those were a lot of buzzwords, but you get the point. It's saying, this is the impact I had, right? I achieved over my quota, was measured by that, whatever it was, outbounds, SQLs, whatever it may be, by the action, right? Cold outreach, prospecting, give that impact instead of just describing the actions you're doing.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. I preach that all the time. So thanks for confirming
Mhm.
that. I always say that anyone could say, oh, I know how to do this, but where's the evidence of that? Right.
Mhm.
So no, that makes sense.
And I'll
So
add one more thing, Richard. Sorry
Mhm.
to jump in. Is the
No, you're
number
fine.
one actually biggest tool that I can point people towards is if you Google Harvard resume guide, there is a Harvard study that that they did, and they built out a guide with a whole glossary of active words, active verbs that you can use when you're thinking about how do I describe what I did in my role. They have it for communication. They do it for leading teams, whatever it may be.
Mhm.
I really recommend everyone Google that. Take a look. It's free. It's the first search on Google to really build out your resume.
So what was it again? Could you say that one more time?
Just Google Harvard resume guide, and it'll be the first search.
All right, you guys. The good thing is you could rewatch this live show. So make sure you take note of that. Okay. Do anything you can to get yourself visibility when it comes down to that. So, I know you talked about how the professional overview and resume. Uh, what are you specifically looking for? I know every recruiter is a little bit different. So, how about you?
Yeah, and that's a great caveat. Is every recruiter is a little bit different, and I'm not even sure I have a strong opinion about whether I like to see a professional overview or not.
Hmm.
What I'll say is, I mentioned you get 10 seconds to get a recruiter hooked on your resume. So that top third of the page is got to be the preview or the hook to get me, invested in more. Um,
Right.
this is something that I've kind of stolen from a great recruiter we've worked with. His name's Wes Leeser. He says, think of that kind of top third of your page as the movie trailer for the movie, if your whole resume is a movie. But it's one of those trailers that you go and see the movie afterwards and you say, all the good parts were kind of in the trailer already.
Right.
That's what you want. Really quickly, really concisely. If you're doing a professional overview at the top, no more than 2 or 3 sentences. Give me kind of the meat and potatoes of who you are, what you've done. Remember, achievements and impact, not day-to-day roles, and how you've done it, meaning the tools, the skills you've developed. The rest of the resume, you can share the when and the where, right? What roles, when you've done that. But
Hmm.
really, when you're thinking about a professional overview or the top of your resume, who you are, what you've done, and how you've done it.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. Well, all right. So now, let's say I get the actual interview itself, right? What are some tips to create a like a positive impression?
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand that every person who's interviewing is interviewing at a bunch of different jobs. It's exhausting. It's hard getting a lot of rejections. But also recruiters, we're talking to a lot of people too. And so we need you to stand out. And so what are the ways to do that? Showing up engaged and excited. This doesn't mean you have to be an extroverted person or enthusiastic, outgoing. Uh, Being engaged and excited can show up through your preparation. for the interview. Know the role you're interviewing for. Be able to ask insightful questions and have a conversation about the roles and responsibilities. Also, know the company that you're talking to. It doesn't take a lot of research just to click on the LinkedIn About tab or click on their website and get a quick little preview of what are they up to, right? What is the kind of company? What might the product be? What is the space? And that preparation shows that, all right, you might be excited to have this conversation, excited to be a part of the interview process.
Right.
The second,
okay,
go ahead. Yeah, I was just going to add one more, which is
go ahead.
Kind of like your nonverbals, right? And that's not even the content that you're saying, but how you're presenting yourself on a call. So often have I seen people show up that aren't making eye contact. They're kind of talking to themselves. It's hard over Zoom. We know it is, but you got to make that effort to look into the screen, look into the camera, feel like we're talking to a person here. And then also it's when we're talking, make it seem like you're actually listening to us, right? So even if it takes like nodding along to like show that you're understanding or reacting when we kind of finish, those are really good ways to leave a good impression in an interview. Because as a recruiter, we're looking for our next coworker as well. We want someone with a personality. We want someone who's interested and passionate. And so coming out and, try not to be so business and cold and try and present like the most formal you can be and really show your personality and connect with us.
Right. I highly agree. I came from like a corporate industry. So at the end of the day, we're humans, right? No one talks like that in real life when you're having the interaction. And then another thing I was going to mention was you talked about how go to the company's page. Pro tip, guys, go to their blog, press release, news, even type in the company's name and go to news section on the Google. You get so much information, and just look at the most recent, even within the year, the most recent information. So at least you could kind of get that information and use that as leverage when you're doing the interview itself. So but yeah, so anyways, what are some common mistakes that you see in an interview, since you talked about the positive impression on that?
Richard, that's such a huge question that we could spend hours talking about what to do and what not to do in an interview. But really the big thing that comes to mind for me is the biggest mistake folks make in interviews is not selling themselves. You're in an interview where you're trying to convince us that you're the perfect person for this role. And I'm not going to make that jump for you. You can tell me all about your prior work experience, all about how good of a teammate you are. But if you're not applying it to this role, if you're not selling yourself, then it's not going to make that impression. So what that means is be confident about your skills and brag. This is something that you talked to Ariana about a couple weeks ago in episode 1 that I really loved is, you're on an interview to brag about your achievements, to brag about why you're a perfect fit for this role. And so every question that a recruiter asks or every story that you're telling should be an opportunity to share, this is why I'm perfect for your team. Really, the way to best do that is have some stories of projects, of different challenges, whatever it may be, from your work experience, from your school projects, whatever it may be, in your back pocket, and use those to apply whenever there's a question asked. Maybe an interviewer will ask you about teamwork. And instead of saying, I'm really good working in a team. No, don't just tell me, show me. Give me a story about a time you worked on a team that you helped lead or that you helped facilitate creating a decision or overcoming a challenge. And that's going to make an impact and really help me understand that, this person is right for the job because they're telling me that they are and that they're showing me they have whatever it is to back it up.
I see. So I know that there's that saying where it's good to ask questions to the recruiter itself, right? At the end of the day, you're having that conversation. The interviewer is trying to figure out who this person is. What are some good questions to ask the interviewer?
The first thing I'll say is have genuine curiosity. There is no better question than one that actually relates to what you're talking about, to the role. So as a recruiter is overviewing the role, you're chatting about the requirements, think of some things that, all right, what am I actually wondering about the role? That shows you're paying attention, you're engaged, everything we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But it's okay to have some prepackaged questions that you're ready to ask that kind of relate along that side. Envisioning yourself in the role, I really love when a candidate asks about how is success measured in the role? What are the performance expectations or KPIs? That shows this person is thinking about themselves in the role, already wants to make sure that they're being set up for success, and they're already thinking about how am I going to show my worth, how am I going to show my performance. And what I just talked about in terms of using every question as an opportunity to sell yourself. Let's say I'm saying success is based on customer success metrics. So the number of tickets of customers that have a problem that you're fixing.
Mm-hmm.
You can, and I tell you that's how success is measured. You say, oh, well, that's perfect because in my last role, I was doing exactly that. I was using customer success, and it really I prided myself on my ability to work through efficiently and solve the problems. Perfect. You're not only showing that you're interested in the role, but then you're using that opportunity to position yourself as the right fit. I'll give you maybe one or two more also, just to think about it. What are the challenging parts of the role? That's on the flip side. It's thinking about, all right, if I'm going to be in this role, I want to know the good and the bad. What are going to be some of the hard frustrations about the role? Guess what? Another opportunity to sell yourself. Oh, as one of the challenging parts of the role that you're very autonomous and you need to be organized for yourself and self-schedule. Oh, perfect. In my last role, I really had to prioritize my work. I set a schedule for myself. Every morning I had a to-do list and I was checking off high priorities and long-term projects. Boom. Excellent way to position yourself into the role. And then I'll kind of talk about just in general, I love questions about a company's culture, about company values, and how companies establish work-life balance. These are things that are so important that aren't talked about enough. And you'll be able to tell from a recruiter or anyone you're interviewing with if this is something that aligns with your same values. You want to be able to work in a place where you're excited to work, you feel passionate about the work, and you're waking up every day, logging on, and it's not too much of a slog. You're not feeling burnt out, and so getting those answers. And sometimes it's going to be about flexibility and that you have a flexible work schedule and you can pick up your kids in the afternoon and you don't have to worry about being offline. Sometimes it's going to be, we have these community events that we're building out community and allowing cooperation and teamwork between our teams. Sometimes it's going to be as simple as, we have unlimited PTO and we actually encourage people to take it because we want you to feel like awesome. you have freedom. So really, really good questions to ask. And then once you're done asking the questions about the role, about the company, assessing your fit, that's when it's okay to ask questions about what are next steps in the interview process. What are compensation details? What are the hours look like, or what are the PTO programs? It can rub someone a little bit the wrong way if right off the bat we're talking about how great of a fit this role is for you, how good this company is for you, and you say, okay, cool. Well, how much time can I take off for vacation?
Right.
All right. Well, are you really in it for the project? Or are you really in it for just like to collect a paycheck? So,
right.
Really encourage getting clear on the interview process. If any of those things are priorities for you, certainly ask the questions at the end, but try not to lead off with those.
I see. All right. So let's say the whole interview process is done, right? Should candidates do anything, afterwards, after the interview?
Yeah, I always recommend sending a thank you note to anyone you interview with. It's not something that's going to make or break you in an interview process, but it's something that, again, shows your excitement, shows your passion, shows your proactivity. And some people, especially if you're interviewing with older generations who have more traditional values, really, really look for that. So it can be a really quick note. hey, Ben, thanks for the interview. I really enjoyed learning about the role. Excited for next steps. Boom, perfect. Send it over LinkedIn, send it over email. And that also includes as you move through the interview process, you might not always have the person's email. You can ask the recruiter, hey, I'd love to send a thank you message to Richard after I interviewed with him. Can you send me his email? Really quick, easy things to do that can make a little bit of a difference, especially considering that every single person you talk to, including the recruiter, are decision makers. They're deciding if you're moving forward in the process or if you're getting that dreaded rejection letter. So treat it as such, and do those little small things, and you'll be setting yourself up for success.
All right. So speaking of the interview process, what if the interview is short? Is that like a bad sign that you might not move forward to the next round, or what's that? Because I've heard that many times.
Yeah, there's no hard and fast rule for this. It really depends on the recruiter or whoever you're interviewing with. It depends on the company. So don't feel horrible after a short interview. If you feel like there was some conversation that was valuable there. I would just say, if you do feel like that, send a question afterwards. If you felt like, oh, I really should have asked a follow-up question or should have continued the conversation, feel free to send it over email. Continue the conversation asynchronously. And sometimes there's just short calls, there's short check-ins. I know, especially when I'm talking to engineering candidates, they're very hard and fast. They want to know what's the job, what's the product, how much is the pay, and then we're done with the call. It's just a personality thing. It's just it's different than when I'm talking to a sales rep who wants to learn all about what are the cultural activities that are happening within the company. So don't feel horrible about it. There's not really anything you can do after other than following up with an email after the interview.
Right.
So no rule with that.
I see. So is there, let's say, everything's done, interview, the thank you. Is there a timeline or what's the timeline when an applicant would receive any responses?
Yeah, and this also depends. Sometimes I get off a call and I know right away I'm moving this person forward. I want to get them to the next interview as soon as possible. Sometimes I need a little bit of advice. I'll say, hey, talk to my hiring manager. Look at this resume. I had a really good conversation, or I had some concerns here. Would you like to have that conversation, that next interview? And that requires a few days. Sometimes I'm interviewing 7 people back to back, and I need some time to go through all those, get through my notes, and then move people forward. So understanding people are busy, give it a few days. It's always okay to send a follow-up email, not saying, am I moving forward? What are next steps? But say, hey, Ben, I really enjoyed our conversation late last week. When should I expect to know when I'm moving for next steps? Or what can I expect in terms of a timeline for knowing the decision? And that's always fine. You might get the answer, hey, thanks for following up. We're ready to move you forward right now. And I just hadn't gotten to it. Sometimes you'll get the response saying, hey, actually, I don't quite know yet, but I'll get an answer for you soon. So if it's more than a week, like a full week, definitely feel free to send a follow-up. If you're feeling really ambitious and anxious, after a few days is okay. But just understanding that treat people like people. We're all busy. And so sometimes there are different priorities that are getting done.
I see. All right. So we're gonna do, I want to make sure we answer some questions. So we're gonna do some live Q&A real quick right now. Okay. So we're gonna start with the first one. Okay, Braden. Thank you, Braden. This is the second show you joined, so I appreciate that. So let's read what it says. Oftentimes, I find that companies send automated rejection emails, updates, etc. Should I move forward in my job searching process or continue trying to get in touch with the desired company? That's a great question.
Yeah, great question, Braden. And the unfortunate answer is, if you're getting a rejection letter, the decision's been made. It's, either a recruiter or a manager has decided that we're not going to be moving forward. You're not the perfect person for right now. What you can do is reach out to that recruiter and ask for some feedback. Hey, I understand you made this decision. Although I'm disappointed to hear that, I'd really like to learn for next time what I could improve on. Would you mind sharing some feedback? That's a great way to get a little bit of closure, to get some growth, especially if it's one of those automated rejection emails that kind of suck, no personal touch. There's not much you can do to change that decision, but you can kind of grow from it and move on.
I see. Okay. So this one is about the follow-up question. What's up, Chuang? Welcome to the show again. So what do you do when the recruiter stops replying back to you regarding the next steps of the interview after you have completed all questionnaires, surveys, tests, etc.?
Yeah, I'd love to give a recruiter the benefit of the doubt and follow up once, follow up twice. Really hoping that we don't have recruiters out there that are completely ghosting candidates. Understanding that people are busy and things get dropped sometimes. Hopefully after that follow-up, they'll get back to you. And the best you can do is kind of just remind them, get your name at the top of their inbox, and see if they can provide any feedback for you.
All right. Thank you. All right. So how about this one? Braden again. Okay. All right. Should you always be open and honest when recruiters ask, what are your current standings with other companies?
Yeah. And I assume you're asking about other interview processes, right? We're asking about if you're interviewing with other companies. And the answer is yes, 100%. We don't care that you're interviewing with other companies. And actually, it's probably a good sign. It means that other companies are interested in you as well. Why we ask that is we want to make sure that you're fully through our process and have an offer at the time that you get offers from other companies. So it's really all about timelines. It's saying that, do we need to expedite you through, have you 3 interviews this week, or can we kind of slow adjust it and go through the next couple of weeks? Many times I've had candidates who I'm really excited about who aren't upfront with me about their standing with other companies. And all of a sudden I'll be setting them up for their next interview and I'll get the email, hey, Ben, I've actually accepted another offer. Thanks for the process, but I'm withdrawing. And that's such a bummer, because if I'd known, I would have had them interview faster, gotten them in more conversations. And potentially then if you have a couple offers on the table at one time, you have a little bit more leverage in terms of comp negotiations and all of that stuff. So Please be honest. Keep me updated, right? As you're going through, hey, Ben, I have last stages coming through, or I'm expecting an offer after next week. Again, I'll do the best I can to make sure that you have all the options available to you.
Gotcha. Okay. So this one's back to Chuang. How do you answer, what are your weaknesses? Ooh, that's pretty.
Oh, that's a good question. And I'm a little surprised that recruiters still ask this question because it is so cliche. Be honest. Nobody here is perfect. We all have weaknesses, and don't feel like you need to do like I work too hard, or I'm too vocal, whatever it is. Be honest, because that shows a lot of self-reflection. It shows that you're not overly confident. And it also shows that you're eager to learn and grow. And that's something, especially early in your career, interviewers are really looking for. They're not looking for the picture perfect person who's going to come in and be able to hit the ground running immediately. They're looking for someone who has enough of a foundation, but also the passion and excitement to learn and develop and grow within the company. So understand your weaknesses, but saying it's something that I'm excited to take on more challenges and help develop. Turn it in transition. It's something that I've recognized, I've talked with my managers about before, and I'm really working on it. Maybe it's speaking up in calls. Maybe it's your ability to time manage. Whatever it may be, hit it front on and share that you're excited to keep developing and keep growing. And that'll be even more impressive than the kind of fake answers like, I work too hard.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. All right. So this one is from CJ here. So what boot camp? So I took a boot camp, by the way, to get in. So what boot camp would you recommend for tech sales?
Yeah, that's a good question, and not one that I actually have an answer for. Um, in my experience, I haven't run into too many boot camps. I know Richard has like pleads that his boot camp is really good, and I hired him because of the skills that he developed from it. So if there's any testament to it, like follow what Richard's best recommendation there. But I don't have an answer for you for other ones that I can really recommend.
Gotcha. Okay. So it looks like we got one on it's Braden here. So in the instant that current employees flag, refer, recommend your application, how
Mm.
much do recruiters take that into consideration?
Yeah, I'll speak to my experience, which at FastSpring has been we're a small, mid-sized company. It matters a lot. It really gives you a pristine, premier, white glove service through the interview process. Having someone who has said, I've worked with this person or I have a relationship with this person and they're good, can really help affect the responses and the scoring or impressions that people get of you. Um, it helps you get through quickly. It helps your conversations. You have a little bit of a common ground. In a big company, it might not matter as much. And that's just kind of the sense of there's no personal relationships. As a recruiter, I might not be able to talk to the person and really get that testimonial. But you can always leverage your connection to have that knowledge about the role or about the company that you can then bring up in your conversations, in your interviews. That will be really impressive. It's easier than just doing a Google search or looking on the LinkedIn, but being able to say, yeah, I talked to my buddy Richard, and he talked about how you just unveiled these 3 really great company values, and I actually really align with those, and I think that we'd be a great fit. Perfect, right? Having that little insight, that look into it, will help you in the interview process as much as it can, right? A referral is not gonna make or break you if you're not a qualified candidate or you're not the correct fit for the role. But as much as pushing you to the top of the list, it can certainly have that power.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So we got another question from Kamisha here. So do recruiters take boot camps, kind of like the one I did,
Mm-hmm.
into consideration when looking at resumes? And does it help the resume stand out?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'll say having a boot camp label or listed on your resume itself is not going to make me, move you forward. What it is having that knowledge and applying it and showing that you have understanding of the sales process, of what the role is absolutely going to help. This is something that when I talked to Richard, he wasn't in tech sales before, but he was able to talk like he was. He was able to understand the roles, the requirement of it, and like I was talking about earlier, apply how his previous experience could apply to him growing, training, being successful in a sales role because he understood the requirements, he understood the challenges, he understood what the process is like. And that will certainly, it doesn't replicate, it doesn't replace a year of experience in an SDR role at a tech company. But in a situation where we're looking at someone who's going to have growth, who's going to be passionate to learn and eager to learn, that foundation of a boot camp or some research is hugely impactful.
All right. Thank you. So we have another question from Veronica. Is it a red flag for recruiters if you were only at a company for less than 6 months? If so, how can you explain your decision of leaving the company? Should you be honest, or is there a specific way to approach this? Ooh,
It's
that's a great question.
it's a really good question, and it's a little nuanced. The quick answer is no, and only no if you are able to explain it. I understand people get into a company and it's a bad situation. They don't feel like they're successful. Their manager's not very good all the time, right? It's happened with my friends. It's happened with coworkers all the time. And actually being proactive and saying, I'm not going to sit and deal with this. I want to go find another opportunity is fine. But often what I'll do in my interviews is I'll kind of ask, like, okay, well what was the reasoning or the motivation for finding a new role? And the way you describe it, if you describe about looking to find a solution, to find a place where you're better to grow or you feel like you can be more successful, that's great. If you're only blaming on other people, saying it wasn't set up well enough, that tells me that you didn't really put the work in, or you don't have that self-reflection to try and fit. And it might be hard, because who knows, if you get into a role at my company, you might run into the same problems. So obviously, every circumstance is different. Um, if you have one or two short stints at a company and you kind of have a reasoning for it, not a red flag at all. Sometimes if you're showing it, displaying a history of really quick stints, it's not necessarily a red flag, but it may make me think, yeah, we're looking for someone who's going to grow here, wants to learn, wants to be a part of the company for a while. This person seems like they're really looking at a little job hoppy. That might be a little bit of a flag there. So just kind of keep it in mind in the interview processes. Try your best. I know it's easier said than done, but try your best to ask as many questions as you can, get as many perspectives as you can of the people that you'll be working with, be working under, because interview processes are mutual vetting. It's you getting to know the company and the company getting to know you. So as much research and learning as you can do in that interview process to set yourself up in a seat to be successful, that's really what you're hoping to do.
Awesome. All right. It looks like that is our last question we have. I do want to say thank you, everyone, for watching. And also thank you to Ben for being my amazing guest. By the way, speaking of the Tech Sales Bootcamp, if you do want to join, links in the description. If you want help with booking a session with me, you can link is in the description. But Ben, how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I always love building my community. I love supporting people who are looking to make a jump into a next role or into a new industry. So feel free to connect and reach out, and I'll be happy to connect.
Awesome. This is why you're in my show right here. I hope everyone got something out of this. So thank you everyone for showing up. We'll see you next time. And by the way, he will be on another future episode where we'll deep dive on the whole interview. This one, I just wanted to at least ask questions to how to beat the system or just get yourself up front to the recruiter's pretty much the recruiter's hands right there. So he will be on a future episode. All right, stay tuned, guys. Thank you, everyone. Take care.